Thank you for tuning in to the Peoplz and Dragons. If you enjoy the content we provide, then subscribe, like, and maybe join in on the action at www.pndrpg.com. Before we get started, I just want to say to everyone, thank you. This is where it all started, and I'm glad that you're all playing and enjoying it as much as I am.
G-board?
All right, shall we? Haven City, an ugly city. Episode 7. Gate Crash. Tempus and Judge Benedict watch the news intensely. They see the chaos of the Civil War and the death of Advocate, as well as the Survey Day uprising led by Anarchy 12 and the rampaging Super Gamma Type Fire. So many innocent people being slaughtered in such short time. It wasn't since the Great Gamma Calamity that the city has faced so much turmoil. However, Tempus remains cool-headed and tells Judge it's time to handle this. He directs Judge to assemble the best students whom he thinks are ready and to meet him at the front of the gate center. He lets Judge know that he trusts his judgment and says so with a slight smirk. Tempus's cool head and sense of humor eases Judge's nerves a bit. He could see a river of relief run down Judge's heart, pouring out onto his boots. Judge Benedict tips his hat and runs to assemble suitable agents. Tempus puts his ear up to the door of the training room and hears nothing. Just before he gets ready to knock, RType opens the door. Tempus notices something different about RType X and can feel the immense power swirling around him, the air in his vicinity feeling charged and incredibly energetic. Tempus informs RType X of the chaos and Survey Day uprising. We cut to Tempus and RType getting inside of a vehicle and Judge Benedict getting inside of a separate vehicle with a handful of selected gate agents. Tempus looks up and adjusts the rear view mirror and looks back down to see two men standing in front of their vehicle. The ritual Gtypes created by the Survey Day here to complete the final phases of Emerald Prophecy. One colorless man, completely naked, his flesh dead and cold, his neck limp, with his dead cold eyes set on RType X. The other also naked, with intense bloodshot eyes set on RType X, his body covered in what must be hundreds of mouths all chattering and or licking their lips with discolored tongues. Both beings giving off an eerie and unsettling vibe. The sun begins to set over the gate center as armies of cultists can be seen and heard approaching the gate center. Judge and all of the rookie gate agents immediately step out of the vehicle. Tempus shouts, "No!" as the female gate student draws a high-tech grenade in one hand, pistol in the other seemingly uncontrollably as the ritual Gtype fixes his dead eyes onto her. Controlling her like a puppet using her own shadow, it forces her to aim the gun at the grenade in front of her face and pulls the trigger, causing a massive explosion, blowing her and 3 other of the agents and the truck to pieces. Judge Benedict was able to avoid it, grabbing one other student and diving out of the way. Tempus and RType get out of the car as Tempus commands Judge to head back into the center to protect the rest of their students. Slightly shell-shocked, Judge Benedict brings himself to his feet and grabs the other young gate agent who is in complete shock and says, "This field trip just got canceled. We're heading back to the classroom. Come on," and drags the agent with him into the gate center. RType X holds his hand out with his palm open and charges his power, causing an aura of pure energy to appear around him. He then channels it all into his hand, forging a bead of dark blue light, then crushes it with his fist, absorbing it all up front, triggering a massive wave of force to explode from his body, blowing every vehicle over. The power forces Tempus off of his feet a bit, stumbling while trying his hardest to keep his fedora on his beautiful white hair. This was Dantatsu Tafra, a technique allowing RType's body to absorb and operate, fueled by his own energy. RType stands looking incredibly strong, fortified and resilient, glowing blue with a tint of green. The ritual Gtypes remain unmoved in their trance, zoned out. RType folds his arms and looks unworried by the two enemies. However, Tempus, on the other hand, looks extremely pissed from losing his students just now and crawls back to his feet, when suddenly Tempus dives toward the ground, barely dodging RType's blast directed at Tempus that he saw coming from a quick glimpse of the future. RType's arm is bound and under control by his own shadow caused by the gray Gtype. RType immediately performs his Sayoko Senbarenge swarm technique, calling upon tens of thousands of razor-sharp bladed lotus flowers to swarm and overpower the gray Gtype, distracting it enough to relinquish control of his arm back, just in time to defend himself from the mouthy Gtype, who clashes forearms with RType. The mouth on the Gtype's forearm clamps down into RType's gauntlet and then proceeds to swing RType into the flipped over vehicle. RType flies toward the vehicle but is able to change trajectory mid-flight and avoids hitting the truck and fires multiple beams at the Gtype. All of the mouths on its body open wide like gaping black holes of nothingness and swallows the beams of energy unharmed. Tempus focuses all his willpower on the gray Gtype and attempts to absorb time from it, but is unsuccessful and doesn't work for some mysterious reason. However, it gets his attention and it sets its sights on Tempus. Tempus's shadow rises from the ground and shapes its arm into a long, sharp spike and goes to stab at Tempus from behind. Tempus evades it and stumbles backward as he aggressively is engaged by his own shadow. RType summons an army of clones around the perimeter and has them create a large energy dome around them in the gate center to slow down the approaching cult army. The mouthy Gtype fires an insanely large yellow blast out of its stomach mouth that shoots out in seconds time, taking out a large portion of the ground under it directly at RType X. RType puts one hand out, bringing the projectile to a halt, pushing him backward a bit before canceling out the blast entirely. Tempus begins to absorb an aggressive amount of time from the mouthy Gtype and begins to chip away from its massive lifespan and allocates the time into RType X, who dashes toward the gray Gtype and sends a crushing knee to its face, then appears beside him and hits him with a 7-hit kick combo that rattles the gray Gtype immensely, but does not appear to hurt it at all. It grabs RType's foot on his last kick, but with augmented speed from Tempus's speed boost, he is able to slip out of its grasp and land dozens of punches and kicks before shoving a ball of energy into its chest, blasting the Gtype toward the other one, who leaps over it and charges RType X while firing beams of light out of its mouth that RType effortlessly evades. Once it reaches RType X, it lunges with the gaping mouth and clamps down on RType's thigh. Blood gushes out of RType for the first time as he begins to pummel its head but unable to get it off of him. Suddenly, RType X can feel his thigh being sucked into the black void that is its mouth as muscles and flesh begin to tear away from his bone. Tempus grabs the mouthy Gtype from the side and attempts to grapple and flip it off of RType X and onto the ground using his judo techniques, but its mouth bites at Tempus's hands, taking one of his fingers during the struggle. Tempus shouts in pain, but sees RType X being slowly devoured as the Gtype begins chomping into RType's protective layer of energy. Tempus focuses and takes a massive breath and begins to absorb as much time from the Gtype as possible, so much so that despite its endless lifespan, Tempus damn near freezes it in place. His nose begins to bleed. This gives RType an opportunity. He forms his finger like a gun and uses Dragon King Strong Fist Ultimate Art Spiraling Cannon. A dark beam of incredible spiraling black and blue energy that pierces like a drill with incredible explosive power that blasts the Gtype point blank, the explosion sending it yards away, taking a chunk of RType's leg with it. The smoke clears and we see it standing lurched over, its mouths chewing and breaking down copious amounts of RType's energy from the projectile and washing it down with remnants of RType's thigh meat. We cut to Mackay's skybound loft in Haven Square. Inside of Mackay's chambers, we see the young dragon getting out of bed with a woman. Mackay's assistant rushes into the bedroom and begins to blush at Mackay's nude body. Mackay asks, "What's wrong?" She hesitates. "It's the Gate Center, sir." Mackay rushes to the living room to see that the Gate Center is being attacked by the Survey Day. We then cut to an aircraft lift bringing Mackay and a hand-selected squadron of his clansmen, all fully decked out in the new and upgraded Energirai Mark II suits, equipped with features designed to complement and enhance the clansmen's chi power and absorb energy properties. We see Mackay standing up within the copter. Before putting his ninja helmet on, he turns to his clansmen and says, "We protect the Gate Center at all costs. This is Tempus's legacy." He puts his helmet on and his green visor flickers, his suit lighting up under its draconic metallic scales. Dozens of copters filled with true warriors head toward the Gate Center to assist Tempus and RType X against the Survey Day attack. We cut to Judge dashing through the hallway of the Gate Center, leading a large group of students into a safe room when suddenly a loud crash happens ahead of him as a wall comes crumbling down and through the debris walks a nomad android. "Damn it, fuck, not again." He puts his hand on his jaw, rubbing it as it begins aching from the memory of his last encounter with the nomad. Judge tells the students to stand back and to let him take care of the nomad real fast while sheathing his demon blade, confident. Judge begins to walk toward it when he notices a much larger silhouette appear behind Nomad through the smoke. The large hulking B2 brawler leaps over Nomad and charges toward Judge. "Oh, no. Judge turns around and begins running the other direction and commands the students to run as well. Go, 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 go! The B2 brawler is insanely and deceptively fast, gains on the Judge and smacks him into a wall, sending him flying through a glass window into one of Gate Center's gardens. One of the Gate Center's older and stronger members bravely steps up to the B2 brawler and begins to fire telepathic bullets at the B2's mind, not knowing that though looking like a giant man, it was a machine. The B2 brawler, unaffected, runs through the telepathic assault and pulverizes the student by pounding his head downward into his own abdomen, crushing him completely dead on impact. One of the elder students sees this and out of immense fear freezes up and stops running entirely. The B2 brawler lunges at the old man. We see Judge Benedict dashing toward the elder's aid and throws his sword out towards them both. B2 brawler's massive fists are parried by the Judge's demonic blade and the two clash in a contest of strength. However, this was not the Nomad, and the sword is immediately overpowered and smacked toward the ground. The B2 brawler grabs the man by his legs, crushing them in its grip, and then tosses him into a wall like a ragdoll before making its way toward the rest of the students and begins thrashing about, sending them flying every which way, blood everywhere. The screams of the innocent penetrate Judge's soul, triggering a supernatural reaction within him. A second coating of black, leathery hide begins to grow over Judge's own flesh, and his muscles begin to bulge and his joints contort. The eyeball on his sword looks over at him as it is out of range and thus unable to help Judge contain the demonic energy building within him. Judge begins to transform into a hideous and grotesque beast that he's been successful at containing thanks to the demon sword which was forged for the purpose of stabilizing the darkness within him. Judge's true form brought on by his mutation, the Demon Hound, a demonic entity from another realm. An anthropomorphic canine fiend, his fur, though not on fire, smolders and smells of hell and brimstone. His elongated snout, sharp drooling fangs, and bright red eyes set on the B2 brawler, Judge begins making his way toward the android, but is engaged by the Nomad, but is quickly and easily dispatched when Judge slices the Nomad completely in half and then into thousands of pieces that catch flame and explode, all with one swing. Judge jumps onto the back of the B2 brawler and digs its claws into it and begins ripping out major components of the machine. B2 brawler reaches behind and yanks the Judge off of its back and throws the Judge into a wall, but Judge holds on to B2 brawler's insides, taking them with him. B2 brawler's spine is ripped out and begins to malfunction. The Demon Hound Judge spews a gout of dark flames onto the B2 to finish it as it flails about and melts into a large heap of robotic parts. Judge then sets its sights on the remaining students, his eyes full of bloodlust, and immediately goes to attack when suddenly several of the Gate Center's most experienced and well-trained students arrive and begin fending off Demon Hound Judge. After several long minutes of perfect teamwork, coordination, and perfect synergy and utilization of their non-mutant talents, the students are able to halt the Demon Hound long enough for Judge's own demonic blade to fly forward and plunge itself deep into its heart. A large sigil of demonic writing appears under the Demon Hound Judge like a seal as the sword turns like a key, bringing the Judge to his knees and back into his normal self before falling unconscious, bleeding out across the floor. We cut to RType X laying into both ritual Gtypes, alternating between both of them with incredible combos with pinpoint precision, seemingly floating in and around both of its targets, complete and total dominion over the air. His kicks ripping into the mouthy Gtype, his punches pummeling the gray Gtype, though seemingly unmoved and unfazed. Tempus absorbing the time from the multi-mouthed Gtype and using it to speed RType X and himself immensely. Tempus uses his boost of speed to avoid the multi-mouthed Gtype, but is then bound in one spot by his own shadow once again. Tempus looks down and sees that his foot is in a pool of shadow spreading out from under the Gtype. Hot, steamy, shadowy liquid can be seen splashing around from within the depths of the growing lake of shadow being created by the Gtype. RType looks and sees Tempus in trouble and knows he must finish and destroy this Gtype now. RType powers up and goes into his newly achieved ascended state, the Dragon Destructive Force, a dark blue aura in the shape of a bloomed lotus, burning around him with charged spiritual energy, pressure, and power. Lightning storms begin to stir above the Gate Center, bolts of lightning repeatedly striking the ground all around them. RType X then dashes toward the mouthy Gtype, attacking Tempus with a great big spinning ball of balanced energy. RType's technique, called the 11 Supernovas, formed and held in the palm of his hand, thrusts it directly into one of the stomach's mouths, stuffing it with the combined destructive force and power of 11 exploding supernovas, concentrated into the center of the Gtype, too much power to consume at once and thus obliterating its entire body. Soon after freeing himself of the immediate attacker, RType X appears by Tempus and cuts him free from the shadow binds of the approaching shadowy pool. RType X suddenly feels his barrier get destroyed by cultists out on the perimeter of the Gate Center. We see an army of cultists going toe-to-toe with R-Type X's energy clones, proving to be too much for the cultists, but due to their sheer numbers, they're able to fight back. Roaring dragon copters arrive to the scene as clansmen can be seen diving from out of the sky like raining meteors, each clansman cutting through the wind, their mechanized Energirai Mark II suits gleaming under the red setting sun. Among them, we see Makai Funoichi, his Energirai suit engulfed in a blazing ball of blue chi. Makai holds out his blade and shouts, "Dragons unite!" as all his clansmen's armor begin to glow, and they soar through the sky, slicing toward and through their enemies while evading bolts of dark magic and gunfire. Makai zips through 10 to 15 cultists at once, slicing through them with his father's blade, every rending slash leaving a glowing trail. R-Type clones, Makai Funoichi, and the Roaring Dragons clan can all be seen combating countless cultists and elite cultists. We cut to R-Type effortlessly kicking around the gray G-Type and begins to rely on energy blasts when Libra identifies that his strikes are ineffective and so are his blasts, but all while avoiding flying shadow spike projectiles and lashings of tendrils of corrosive shadow energy. The gray G-Type then lets out a loud sound like that of an oversized infant crying as it wraps itself up in its own shadow power, forming into a taller and more muscular humanoid entity, and begins attacking R-Type X at an increased speed, but still cannot hit R-Type, who dips and dodges his attacks with his arms folded. Tempus sees Makai approaching at blazing speeds with his sword drawn. Tempus knows it's time to end this and pulls out the Amplify serum he created and jams it into his neck. Tempus's veins begin to shimmer from under his skin and his eyes turn silver. The effects of the serum instantly pushing his mutation beyond full potential. Makai zips in, performing his ultimate attack, Dragon's Roar, rending right through the Shadow G-Type with his leading left claw, glowing with Dragon Chi. In a split second, after Makai turns back around on a dime and lunges into the G-Type with his sword and performs his erupting dragon, as soon as the blade's edge hits the G-Type, Tempus effortlessly stops time with his left hand, gripping the air as if turning the wheels of time itself with his bare hands. With his right hand, Tempus spins the time of day forward, causing the angles of the sun's rays to shift, which in turn moves the Shadow G-Type further into Makai's chi-lit blade for extra agonizing and effective damage. Tempus uses time to drag the G-Type into and across Makai's blade, then rewinds the time of day backward, bringing the G-Type back across the blade for overkill, then releases time, allowing Makai to continue slashing through it one last time. It's not until Makai sheathes his katana that a massive explosion happens, completely eradicating the G-Type once and for all. Tempus trembles, body becoming weak from the overexertion and the effects of the Amplify, and passes out. Makai turns and runs over toward Tempus, when he runs directly into R-Type X, who appears right in front of him. Makai, surprised, opens his mouth to speak with his hand out for a handshake, when R-Type suddenly places his hand on Makai's robotic chest. The two lock eyes for a split second, before a giant ball of light erupts between R-Type's palm and Makai's chest as he uses the 11 supernovas technique point blank and shoves it deep into Makai's chest, causing a 15-yard concentrated explosion with the power of 11 supernovas, sending Makai's lifeless body hurling at light speed into a nearby building that eventually crumbles and buries him. RType X stands with his hand out, smoke blowing from it. He turns around and picks up an unconscious Tempus. We see Makai's clanmate Impact, completely shocked by what she just saw, but lays low as her suit can detect incredible energy levels coming from RType X, way over 900 million, and no longer senses life coming from Makai. Though infuriated, she knows she must live to report back to the clan and retreat for now. The mission to help the Gate Center has gone incredibly wrong. Thanks for watching Peoplz and Dragons. Wait. We see RType X walking away with Tempus in his arms when he gets a tingly feeling and comes to a complete stop. Impact, retreating, stops when her energized suit picks up a familiar energy reading of immense proportions. Could it be? A massive eruption of molten earth in black and blue chi explodes, sending the rubble and debris that once buried Makai every direction. Makai emerges, hovering from his perceived grave, his energized armor glowing a bright blue light now completely overclocked and powered by RType's 11 supernovas. Just as designed, the Funoichi Inc.'s state-of-the-art technology allowed them to make the energized suit capable of absorbing energy as stated. Makai's draconic aura has never been so intense, and neither has Makai's passion and anger. Makai moves at lightning speed with dragon claws out, practically teleporting to RType X, who gracefully dips backward, avoiding the slash, one hand carrying Tempus. Makai appears behind RType X in roaring dragon mode and slashes downward, upward, and across, barely missing RType X while he evades, barely missing a beat, smoothly in mid-air without touching the ground. Makai, moving at hyper speeds using supernova energy, still cannot land a strike on RType X. RType, while dodging, says, "There is only one dragon." And in one split-second motion, RType X absorbs all of the chi and supernova energy completely out of Makai's suit and into his own fist, and delivers a god-killing blow to Makai's gut that almost completely bores through the other end of him, but certainly shatters his spine into dust. The lights within the suit go out. Instantly, we cut to Makai floating in the void, frozen in place from the blow to the stomach as a great mirror appears in front of Makai, when suddenly, flying through the mirror, shattering it, we see Iblis RType X in complete devil spirit form, colliding into Makai, enveloping him in blends of all destructive and murderous energy, which is the result of the Iblis judgment during RType's ultimate move, Aizajawajia. We cut back to the current plane, where we see Makai caught in a tower of black void energy, completely peeling away and disintegrating Makai's armor. RType X pulls his fist out of Makai's body, and the black tower of void fades away. Makai's limp and obliterated remains hit the ground, destroyed. RType X, still with Tempus in his other arm, throws Tempus over his shoulder and looks up at the night sky toward the approaching light. Thanks for watching Peoplz and Dragons, the interactive RPG game show. I encourage everyone to jump into our comment sections, participate in the lore contests, as well as visit our Patreon page to learn what perks come with your support for our machine. Peace.